Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and his wife Susan came here to the Israel-Gaza border area on this Tuesday to bear witness to the atrocities of October 7th. Their first stop, Kibbutzim, Gaza, so badly hit on that vicious day, where Mike Pompeo and his wife walked through the rubble, saw the destruction, got a tour from the Israeli military, met with the brother of two hostages still being held in the Gaza Strip, and walked into the home of a couple murdered by Hamas terrorists on that day, the home itself riddled with bullet holes from bullets fired from the guns of the terrorists on October 7th. After Kibbutzim, Gaza, Pompeo and his wife came here to the field near Re'im that was the site of the infamous Nova Music Festival, where hundreds of Israelis were gunned down by Hamas terrorists. There they met with a survivor of the Nova Music Festival massacre, heard from a spokesperson about the bravery of police officers on that day, and were hosted here by Danny Danon, a legislator from the ruling Likud party. And we asked Danny Danon what it's like for him to host visits such as these.
Personally, it's very hard to hear the testimonials all over again, to see the scenes. It's very hard for every human being to come here and to see the atrocity that took place here. But I think it's very important. You know, I have seen the impact of those visits. Take, for example, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, when he came back to London, the way he started to speak about what he experienced here. And I'm sure that Secretary Pompeo will do the same. Vice President Pence was here with me a few weeks ago, and he published very important op-ed with Secretary Pompeo about the region. So I think we should continue to do that. I wish I could have bring, hundreds of dignitaries to see what happened here. We cannot do that, but I'm thankful for those who came.
We were able to catch up with Mike Pompeo one-on-one and asked him a range of questions, both about his impressions here in the Israel-Gaza border area and about the hot-button issues in the United States, about the U.S.-Israel relationship and U.S. President Joe Biden, about Iran, about that contentious legislation now going before the U.S. House that includes aid for Israel, and about the future of the U.S. commitment to NATO.
Well, look, there's never anything like actually being in that ground to walk this sacred space and a chance to meet with families who lost loved ones, some of whom still have family members that are being held hostage as well. And so, we've all seen the videos, we've all read the stories, but to walk the ground is always obviously something that is very personal and different.
I want to talk about an issue connected with Israel, but of course the U.S. as we continue to hear the artillery in the background. It's a war that obviously is costly in human lives here in Israel, but it's also costly in terms of money. There's a bill that just passed the U.S. Senate going to the House, giving emergency assistance to Israel. It's a tangled issue in U.S. politics. What would you do if you're a member of the House? Would you vote for the bill that's coming to the House from the Senate with aid for Israel and Ukraine, or would you vote against it?
So I don't know the details of the legislation, but the United States should provide assistance both to Israel and to Ukraine. It is important not only to Ukraine and to Israel, but to the United States of America. For our security, we should continue to support people who are fighting to protect their nation's sovereignty and their people's security.
Even if that aid does not include as part of the bill the issue of border security at the U.S.-Mexican border?
We should provide this assistance, and we should get our border secure. These are not mutually exclusive events. It is possible for the United States, the nation that it is, to do each of those things. We have to get our border right. In the same way that we're standing very close to Israeli borders, every nation has the obligation to get its own sovereignty, its own national sovereignty, protect its borders. The United States should do that too.
Are you distressed by those in the Republican Party who are coming out against, for example, funding to Ukraine and against this potential bill that would get the badly needed money here to Israel?
Most Americans understand this. I don't want to do politics here today. People represent their own citizens. They make their own decisions. But I think it is deeply clear that it is important to the United States, to America's interest, every American all across the country, that this assistance be provided. And I hope that soon the United States will get that done. I'm confident that we will. The American people support Israel, and I'm very confident they'll get this finished.
We heard Joe Biden say that Israel's conduct of its response in Gaza was, quote, over the top. What did you think when you heard that? What was your reaction when you first heard that or saw that on the television?
Well, two thoughts. I know the warriors of the IDF. I can't imagine that they're behaving in a way that would be, quote, over the top, end of quote. I am confident they're doing this in a way that is methodical and providing for their own security. My second thought is we have to be really careful when we use language like that, because it gives encouragement to the Iranians, encouragement to Hamas, saying, maybe we can just hang in there just a little bit longer and continue to fight this fight. And we should never give anything that provides any aid or any comfort to these evil men.
Two other last questions. First of all, what should be done on U.S. policy toward Iran that's not being done?
You have to deter them. we've lost deterrence. And so the tactics, the operations, exactly how to execute that, I'll leave to those that are in the know. I've been 3 years now out of government. But what is demonstrably true is that we've had over 100 attacks on Americans that are provided by that have been occasioned by Iranian-supported terrorists, and we haven't got deterrence. We have to get that back.
And finally, Israel is a close ally of the United States, but it's part of a web of U.S. alliances. If there are NATO member states who are not spending 2% of their GDP on defense, should the United States be extending protection to them under the under the North Atlantic Treaty?
Well, first of all, they should be spending more than 2%. They should be doing the duty to protect their own people and provide, just as we talked about, just like Israel does, right? In the first instance, Israel knows it's their responsibility. These countries that are NATO members should do the right thing and make sure they're providing the tools they need to protect their own people. And then we have an Article 5 commitment in the United States, and we should honor that commitment each and every day.
And honor it even if the spending is below 2%.
We should honor that commitment, and they should do their role as well.
So there, the visit of the former U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Owen Alterman, I-24 News, here near Kibbutz Re'im.
A tribute to heroism and sacrifice amid a tragedy that has shocked the nation.
On Saturday morning, I got a phone call. A Jewish friend called me and begged me, "Youssef, please save us."
Over 1,200 Israelis were brutally murdered or killed in battles during the October 7th Hamas massacre, and thousands more were wounded when some 3,000 heavily armed Gazan terrorists infiltrated Israel, seeking to kill, kidnap, rape, and abuse everyone in their way.
On Black Saturday, I was in Kfar Aza. A guy named Noam called me. He said to me, "Sammy, there are terrorists here who infiltrated out of Gaza. And I know you are brave. Please rescue me. Save me from the situation." I took off immediately. I didn't think twice. Not about my wife, not about the children, not about the family. I instantly started the car and I arrived at the scene. The bullets whistled over my head, but I managed to save my friend.
But those numbers of victims could have been much higher if it wasn't for many brave police officers, soldiers, paramedics, and even just regular civilians who decided to put their lives on the line to save the lives of others.
A friend called me. I asked him, "What happened?" He said, "Terrorists, alarms, missiles." I didn't think twice. I got up without changing my clothes. I started the car and went out to save lives.
At 6:22, I arrived at the party in Re'im. At 6:30, all the action started. We began evacuating the civilians. Somewhere between 8 and 10 people squeezed into the car like sardines, one after the other, even in the trunk. For those who didn't manage to squeeze in, I ordered them to walk along the creek or find a hiding place, and I will be back. I shifted into reverse, maneuvered between the vehicles, and looked for a temporary meeting point. There was a girl who popped out of the bushes and cried. It broke me because I had no room in the car. She cried and said, "Please take me with you. I don't want to die." I told her, "Hide. I promise you I'll be back."
And did you go back?
Obviously, although every time I came back, I knew that this time around I might not make it out alive.
A ceremony held in Jerusalem this week has been dedicated to those special heroes from Israel's Bedouin community. The event was hosted by the Abraham Global Peace Initiative at the Friends of Zion Museum in Jerusalem, with the goal of both expressing gratitude for the brave men and showcasing Israel's diversity.
And we thought this would be a great opportunity, given the fact that the Bedouins are not Jewish, yet they were very much involved in the October 7th, to really recognize them, bring attention to the fact that here you have a situation of Israelis who are Bedouin, non-Jews, who participated really emphatically with passion to help their fellow citizens. And that's a story that's not really being told. This actually showcases how integrated Israel is and how it can be even better in the future.